Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today we're talking NASCAR, Pennzoil engine oil, and the Cobalt 400. Alright, so a few weeks ago I had the pleasure of flying to Las Vegas for the Cobalt 400, which is a NASCAR race held at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And let me tell you, what a great weekend. One of the highlights of the weekend was actually meeting a couple of fellow guys that do YouTube videos. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Brian's Mobile One, who is an awesome dude. If you don't subscribe to him, check him out. I'll be sure to link to all these guys down below as well as up in the video notes. So I got to meet Brian's Mobile One. I got to meet MotorCity Mechanic, who now, whether he likes it or not, has officially become my resource for all things Chrysler, including the Rutan. So I'm very happy to have him as a resource, and he's another really awesome guy. I also got to see my buddy the Rockfather, who I haven't seen since 2014, I think. And it was great to have some time to hang out with these dudes over the weekend. In addition to that, we had some time to chat with Joey Logano, who's the Team Penske driver for NASCAR. You know, I always love listening to guys at a really high level, you know, professional drivers, professional athletes. They're so calm, they're so confident, so cool, like even right before the race, and then they hop in a race car and drive around in circles at 200 miles an hour. It's really interesting, and the other thing I really like is they're all always very complimentary of their team. They understand that without all the guys, you know, busting tires and working their butts off in the garage all week, they wouldn't have a race car to race. And it's really cool to have that kind of camaraderie, that kind of teamwork in a sport where the focus is almost all on the driver. We also had one of the best pit, paddock, and garage tours that I've ever been on. I've been on about 5 of these tours, 2 NASCAR, 2 IndyCar, and even a Formula One tour. And Hank, who was our tour guide, is an absolute genius when it comes to all things NASCAR. You know, the casual fan really does take for granted all of the things that go in to making a car just turn left. And rather than try and fumble my way through explaining some of these things, I'm just gonna let Hank tell us about it.
Do not carry much oil in the oil pan underneath. We have an oil pan, but it's just enough to catch the oil and it's transferred back to the reservoir. So what we're doing with the generator, we're heating that oil up. Why do we do that? Well, with a dry sump system, it takes too long to heat the oil normally by going through the process of going through the motor and coming back. Because of that long process, we run the risk of damaging the motor if it's not at the proper temperature. More importantly, hot oil generates additional horsepower. So we're going to get that temperature in that reservoir up to about 280 degrees Fahrenheit. If we hit 300 degrees Fahrenheit, we'll start cooking the oil. Every team has to use the same size can. This can holds 12 gallons of racing fuel. The fuel cell in the race car holds 18 gallons of fuel. I had mentioned earlier that we're now running an E15 gasoline, but now with E15, we have to be very, very careful we don't contaminate it. And how would we contaminate it? Well, let me explain. Prior to going to E15, we used to have a 7th person come over the wall, and he would stand at the left rear tail of the race car, right where the tail light is. He'd had a can about this size. He had a probe on it about, not that long, but about that long. He would come over the wall. We had an aluminum tube coming out at that tail light, which is not a light, folks, it's a decal, but it looks like a light. It would come out. This catch can person would come over the wall with the rest of the pit crew. He would take this probe, he would shove it in that aluminum tube, and by doing so, he released a flapper valve in the fuel cell. Just like your cars, you have to release the air pressure in the gas tank. The gas came through that tube into this can right here. And he would stay there as the gas was coming in. Years ago, you could see this guy waving, and what he was doing was pointing out to the jack man who controls the pit stop, still does. The car is full of gas. Gassing's done. Pull this can, the old can, out, and he stands there catching any excess fuel.
I also had a really cool opportunity to chat with Todd Gordan, who's Joey's crew chief, and I wanted to ask him a few questions. One of the questions that I was really trying to understand is how important having a big sponsor like Pennzoil, like Shell, was to Team Penske.
Well, I think there's several facets on it. I think one, the financial piece, you've got to have the support in the backing to be successful. 2, from the product side, there's a lot of things that we do that we lean back on them for whether it's all the lubricants we've got in the car. There's developments that happen throughout the year with it, so that's always a good piece. And they work with Roush Yates, our motor supplier, to develop what we can there. I mean, that's an ongoing relationship. And then three, it's a pride factor. You get to represent a company with such great stature in the market. It's Roger's that way, I think, and that aligns with Shell and Pennzoil. They're in a position in the market, you want to make them proud. So it forces everybody to work forward a little bit better.
I also had the opportunity to ask Todd one other question about what it really does take to be on a NASCAR team, but I'm going to save that for another day. We also had a really cool opportunity to learn a little bit more about Pennzoil motor oil. This motor oil is actually made from natural gas instead of crude oil. So basically, instead of filtering the junk out of a dirty stream, think of it more like capturing rainwater. You're essentially starting off with a cleaner product. And it's cool because the base oil is almost crystal clear. Now, I've used this in a lot of my cars. I use it in the Passat, I use it in the Cabby, and I'll be using it in the GTI. I've actually been using this engine oil for about 2 years now, so this is way before there was even a Humble Mechanic podcast. We switched at the dealership quite some time ago. I made the switch along with them, and it's been working out really well ever since. Oh, and the final thing about the Cobalt 400, as with any race, you always gotta get the program. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, post it in the comments section below. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and obviously right here on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.